G'day guys, Dom here. So we're gonna make some folders today, some frame locks. These are all in 6.4 grade 5 titanium. First thing I wanna do is start flattening them off. Only when I disc sand something, I'd have a fresh sheet of sandpaper available, but with everything that's going on, it's getting really hard to get most abrasives in stock. All the shops are shut, so I'm kind of having to scrounge around. Luckily, I'm a hoarder and I don't throw shit away, so I've still got all these belts and stuff from the Titan build, and most of them are f***ed, but a few of them have got like a little bit of life in them. Same with all the abrasives, like something like this one. That's probably good to go. So we'll use this and try and get some life out of it. Hobo knife making, let's do this. So one of the biggest pieces of advice I can give you about making a titanium frame lock, or working with titanium in general, is deburr your shit. Titanium's real gummy and it likes to make these little burrs when you drill it or cut it or basically do anything with it. The problem with that is that actually it'll throw off your flatness. So the camera's not gonna be able to see this, but because of that burr there, it's actually lifting my part up. So if I was to drill this right now, we wouldn't have a square hole. So solution, get yourself a hand drill, and just knock that burr off real quick, and now it'll lay flat when you go to drill it. So we're going to start milling a little relief cut here. So the problem is I can't actually mill it in my vise like this, so I need to be able to essentially clamp it to something or screw it to something so I can mill it this way. So this is my fixture. Now if you're a knife maker and you're a dodgy like me, and you want to get things done quickly and not spend half a week making fixtures, pine is your best friend. I mean, it's quick, it's cheap, and it's very, very flexible. You can quickly just whack a screw in, whack a screw in, line it up, put a second screw in, and that's going to hold it down well enough for you. I'm not milling anything precise here, so as long as it's relatively straight, it'll make a straight cut. We're all golden. So if you're wondering where parts come from, they come from something like this. This is a big sheet of titanium that I'll buy, and I'll essentially get them all cut down with a Waterjet cutter down to the right shape, which sort of gives you a blank to work from, and it means all my tolerances are already sort of placed into my parts, which makes them more repeatable and makes them a better process. I mean, it makes them actually profitable to make sometimes when things don't fuck up. So right now these are a little bit thick. I just measured them and they're about 180 thousandths thick. I need them to be about 140. So I'm just going to slap this down on the surface grinder, and this machine's going to flatten it for us and get it where it needs to be so we can actually have a nice action and everything fits in the frame. While those blades are surface grinding, we need to start working on how we're going to get some bearings to fit in these things. So these are going to run on some little ball bearings. When I put the washer on there, they're about 80 thousandths thick. So I need to be able to mill a pocket in there that's actually going to let me put this bearing in there and not have a knife that's ridiculously thick when I will sandwich it all together. The way I do it is I just clamp it up in the mill and I plunge in with I think that's a 10mm end mill. And I'm sorry, my measurements are all I either talking imperial or talking metric. It's just I work with American hardware, so I speak in imperial, but I also work with metric tooling just to really with people. So I like to do it really simple. I put a pivot in there, I line it up, I press it down, lock my mill, and I'll just clamp this down just to make sure it stays there. I use 2 can twist clamps and clamp the absolute f out of it. Now my end mill is slightly bigger than it needs to be, and that's good. That means that I have a little bit of wiggle room, and when we go to mill it, it's gonna go in easily and make a nice puncture for us. Alright, so this steel. I don't know what it is about S35 yen. Apparently it doesn't want a bandsaw cut at all. You can cut like 2-3 millimeters and the bandsaw blade just says nope. So, angle grinder. F it. So we got this thing ready for heat treat. Now S35, it's a stainless steel and it doesn't like oxygen when we're taking it up to, well, 1100 degrees Celsius. So we put this in the stainless steel foil wrap with a little bit of paper in there. What's gonna happen is when it gets real hot, that paper's gonna burn, it's gonna pull a vacuum, and in theory these are gonna come out heat treat pretty clean. This is a Paragon something or other fancy doohickey kiln, whatever, but this is gonna be the way we heat treat it. It's gonna give us a nice consistent temperature, and we get a really nice heat treat out of the knives. And it's screaming hot, so let's try not to burn the factory down, hey? Now you let this soak, and we'll come back in a few minutes. Turns out I am not a brilliant man. I was having a problem with both of these centering up and I couldn't really figure it out until I noticed that this space here, back here, is actually bigger than back here. So that whole knife is sort of like that. And I couldn't really figure out where it was, where all of a sudden I had to look at my math and realized that 53 thou divided by 2 is not 21.5. So both of these knives are almost 10 thou each, out of tolerance too far for the bearing pockets, which is the whole reason they're all off-centered and wind, all that sort of stuff. Slight pain in the ass. In this situation, I've got two possible fixes. First possible fix is I put a new blade in, which I don't really want to do because it's just, I don't want to make a whole new blade. The second possible fix, I drill this hole out and I put a new stop pin in there. It's going to be a little bit more fiddly because I've got to fit a new stop pin and I've got to fit the new stop pin to the blade and all that sort of stuff. But it means you don't have to put a new blade in these bad boys. And at the end of the day, it's just going to be as strong as the other one, just to be a bit more fiddly to put together. So yeah, lovely. I said like 2 minutes ago that putting in new stop pins was like a brilliant idea. I'm going to save myself so much work. It's going to be great. That was complete failure. At least half of it was. So this is the knife that I stuffed up and I thought, all right, I'll just drill this out and I'll put a 5mm stop pin in there. Did not go well in any way whatsoever. Essentially the drill bit wandered, then I f***ed it up even more trying to fix it until you get up to this point where these handles probably can be saved, but not easily. Essentially these two holes are way too big and they're not centered, and I'm just kind of sick of working with them. So they're gonna go over there until I figure out one way of fixing it on another project. Luckily, I've got another set of frames here ready to roll. I just gotta start finishing them out and drill them out off camera so that I'll actually have this one is gonna be ready to go for part 2. However, folder number 2 was a great success. It locks up nice and solid. We've got about, I don't know, 30% lock up there, which is nice where I like it. And as you saw before, it is rock solid, so that's what we want. So part 2 will be up next week, and we'll start going through and start basically rounding these things, fitting the locks, getting rid of that lock stick these both have a little bit, and start turning into functional knives. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next part.